What does GDP tell us about an economy? On today's episode, we're going to talk about GDP in full. We are going beyond growth, we're going beyond pride, and we're going beyond outreach. Hello guys, welcome to Solid Finance Podcast, where we discuss money, market, and economics. Do well to like, do well to share, do well to subscribe to our channel, Solid Finance Podcast, for more finance contents from us. Once Nigeria and South Africa are being put in a sentence, it sparks emotions on the internet. But here is the truth. Economies are not judged based on vibes. Rather, they are judged based on data. Just so you know, GDP is not an insult. It is not praise. It is measurement. And if talking about GDP makes people uncomfortable, that is not a problem. It is just an invitation for you to understand the numbers better. So let's start. What's GDP? GDP means gross domestic product. It measures the total output of an economy, meaning it measures the total of goods and services being produced in a country. That is what GDP is all about. GDP does not measure quality of life, income equality, happiness, governance efficiency, or how comfortable people feel in their country. So, when Nigeria is being compared to South Africa, it is not a statement of who is better or whose life is better, but it is a statement of market size, economic volume, and production capacity. Let's just be raw. The GDP reality in Nigeria is that Nigeria has a massive domestic market. Not just that, Nigeria has a large informal economy, while South Africa has a smaller population, a more formalized economy, and high productivity per worker. So when Nigeria's GDP rivals or exceeds South Africa's GDP, it should not be shocking. It is just common arithmetic. There are more people in Nigeria than in South Africa. What is misleading is assuming GDP size equals GDP outcome, and GDP size is not GDP quality. Now, let's analyze the structure of South Africa and Nigeria critically. South Africa is more industrial, it is more formal, it is very structured, and they have better integrate into global value chain. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, GDP is informal. Consumption in Nigeria is very heavy, and Nigeria is less efficiently taxed. And this is why South Africa converts their GDP into wealth, wages, infrastructure, public services. Meanwhile, Nigeria are still struggling to do same. This point I have made doesn't invalidate Nigeria's GDP. It only clarifies why the GDP difference is glaring. GDP per capita means it's GDP divided by the number of people living in that country. Nigeria's population is massive, while South Africa's population is way smaller. So, even with the similar GDP sizes, South Africa's GDP per person is on the higher side. And this explains higher purchasing power, higher average income, and better service demand. GDP growth doesn't mean more jobs for a country. Let's compare the growth in the two countries. Nigeria's growth has always been driven by oil, capital intensive, and low in productivity spillovers. Meanwhile, in South Africa, despite their unemployment issues, they still thrive because they have higher labor productivity, causing their GDP to rise every day, withstanding the inflation and everyday hardship. This is the bitter and hard truth. Nigeria has a large GDP but a weak revenue collection, while South Africa collects more tax as a share of GDP. That is why their public service differ, their government capacity differs, and their infrastructure quality differs too. GDP without revenue is loud but very weak. This is where Nigeria needs to improve, not by denying GDP, but by strengthening institutions. Despite all of this, GDP comparison still matters. And it matters because it tells investors the market size, the growth potential, and the scale opportunity. And that is why most investors still come to Nigeria, because they see the population, they see the demand, and they see the long-term upside. The mistake is not mentioning GDP. The mistake will be stopping there. Before I close, I would like us to take a rundown. Population. Nigeria has over 220 million people, while South Africa has 62 million people. Capital. The capital of Nigeria is Abuja, while the capital of South Africa is Pretoria. The largest city in Nigeria is Lagos, while the largest city in South Africa is Johannesburg. The land size in Nigeria is small, while the land size in South Africa is large. Nigeria has the largest GDP size in Africa, while South Africa has the second largest GDP in Africa. Nigeria has lower GDP per capita due to large population, while South Africa has higher due to smaller population. The currency in Nigeria is naira, while the currency in South Africa is rand. The main resources of Nigeria is oil, gas and agriculture, while in South Africa is gold, platinum and coal. Electricity supply is unstable and limited in Nigeria. Meanwhile, in South Africa, it is more stable and it is widespread. Unemployment in Nigeria is high, while unemployment in South Africa is high but lower than that of Nigeria. Infrastructure in Nigeria are developing, while in South Africa they are more advanced. Manufacturing in Nigeria is weak, while manufacturing in South Africa is strong and export driven. The internet penetration in Nigeria is growing very fast, while the internet penetration in South Africa is more mature. The cost of living in Nigeria is lower, while the cost of living in South Africa is higher. The crime level in Nigeria is high in urban areas, while the crime level in South Africa is high in major cities. Global influence. Nigeria has stronger global influence in population and culture, while South Africa has stronger global influence in trade and diplomacy. So let's be clear, Nigeria's GDP is real and South Africa's economic advantage is real. Both facts do exist at the same time. Do not use one ruler to measure two different economies with two different philosophies. Economic analysis is not a competition, but rather it is understanding. If you have any suggestion, do well to drop your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe to Solid Finance Podcast for more finance contents from us. Until next time.